actually, so pretty excited. Today I'm going to talk about something that I was reflecting on a lot, and I thought it could be relevant to the group. So I wanted to delve into what actually satisfies. Taking some lessons from Ecclesiastes and a life spent chasing the next thing. So I want to start off by understanding a little bit more what this Old Testament book is. I'm a polyglot. I'm a language nerd. I was just talking about this during dinner with Abby. And I was very curious what Ecclesiastes even meant. Like, is it a person, a place? Like, what is it? Because sometimes the meaning of a word can provide more context, and it definitely did in this case. So in Hebrew, the central figure is called Koheleth, and that means teacher or preacher. So when you take it from Hebrew to Greek, you get Ecclesiastes, or one who addresses an assembly. And then from Greek to Latin, it became Ecclesiastes, which ultimately remained the same in English. So Ecclesiastes are the words of the teacher. While oftentimes many biblical books are read from the point of view of a specific person, this one was intentionally left anonymous with its intent to pass wisdom from the words of the teacher. It was written nearly 1,000 years before Jesus, and it's traditionally attributed to King Solomon. Ecclesiastes, I would say it's one of the Bible's most honest books, and it asks the questions many of us have wondered but rarely say out loud. Ecclesiastes explores the reality that life is often uncertain, temporary, and beyond our control. Yet rather than leading to despair, the book points us towards trusting God and enjoying the gifts He's given us. For Christians, Ecclesiastes is especially relevant because it exposes the limits of earthly success, wealth, pleasure, and achievement, creating a longing that's ultimately fulfilled in Jesus Christ. I'm pretty sure you could have figured that was the answer to the first question on the slide. So next slide, 1 second. Wait, oh, sorry, forgot to click the link before I got up here. Sorry. Okay. Yay. All right. So it was ingrained in me early on that satisfaction was driven by success. And success meant that I achieved goals like graduating with good grades, getting a good job, getting promoted, being in a stable relationship, traveling often, making good money. All of those things to me were the markers of success. But over time, I realized that I'm in a constant state of yearning. So I'm going to kick off with the first Bible verse here, chapter 1 of Ecclesiastes, 3 through 11, if you want to read along. What do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. All streams flow into the sea, and yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which one can say, look, this is something new? It was here already long ago. It was here before our time. No one remembers the former generations, and even those yet to come will not be remembered by those who follow them. So if I think of this in the context of some of the times in my life where I was like, this has got to be it. Like, this is my best moment. I've depicted them on the slide. I got to ride in a Ferrari at 165 miles an hour at Indy Motor Speedway. That was really cool. But question marks after. If watching the sunrise over Luxor from a hot air balloon in Egypt, that was really cool, but that still wasn't my highest high. I started exploring aerial dance in my 30s, as many of you know, and it's something that I find joy in every single time I do it. And yet, that still isn't completing me. And I think one of the ultimate things that I thought would be like the best experience of life was seeing the Northern Lights. It just seems like otherworldly. And even that wasn't my highest high. And so it left me with the question of what's ever going to be enough. Chapter 1 of Ecclesiastes ends with, for with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief. And maybe that cracks the tip of the iceberg, why I still don't feel fulfilled. I shouldn't have stapled this. So before I get into this, I want to explain the images I selected for this slide. And for the record, every image except one, you'll be able to tell which one it is. All of these are pictures I've taken. I'm not a photographer. I don't mean it like that. It's just these were very handpicked. So the image on the right on the screen here reads, Arbeit macht frei, which means work will set you free, and it's displayed at the entrances to several Nazi concentration camps. The SS adopted the slogan and placed it at camp entrances to act as a cruel form of psychological manipulation and propaganda. Prisoners were forced into brutal, dehumanizing labor, and for the vast majority, the only freedom the camp actually offered was death. The bottom left image is from the killing fields just outside of Phnom Penh, Cambodia. During the Khmer Rouge regime and genocide in the late 1970s, children and babies belonging to the families under this regime's persecution were taken to be slaughtered in these fields. The stupa shown here with rows of skulls at Chung Ek is a memorial holding skulls of an estimated 8,000 victims. This concentration camp in Dachau, Germany, and Chung Ek in Cambodia were two of the heaviest, most impactful places I've ever visited, and they're living examples of the evil that can exist in this world. How can we trust God in a world where profound evil exists? One thing I love about Ecclesiastes is that it doesn't pretend these questions don't exist. For example, Ecclesiastes 4:1 says, "Again I saw all the oppressions that are done under the sun, and behold, the tears of the oppressed, and they had no one to comfort them." The question becomes, how do we live faithfully in a world where such things can happen? Now, we can take a less dark example and explore a scenario that probably has touched all of us at least once. And I'm going to tie them to the three books of Israelis' wisdom literature, which are Proverbs, Job, and Ecclesiastes, to see how they would look at it. So the scenario would be, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. You don't have to raise your hand if you don't want to, but I'm pretty sure like all of us have been like, I don't know what I'm doing. So Proverbs would take that and say, okay, seek wisdom and take the next right step from there. To quote a relevant passage, we could say Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord and he will make your path straight. So you take the next faithful step. Job would say, maybe you just don't understand what God is doing. Job 38:4 is, where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? We don't know because we weren't there. And finally, Ecclesiastes is basically like, you don't know what you're doing with your life? LOL, neither does anybody else. Ecclesiastes 8:17 says, no one can discover the work that is done under the sun. No one has life figured out. And just to round this out with a little New Testament, because I know this is, the focus of the Christian faith, Matthew 6:34, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. So that leads me to this word, hevel. This word changes everything. Hevel is a Hebrew word. It's all over the original rendition of Ecclesiastes. Really bad idea stapling that. Okay, so Ecclesiastes 1:2 is the same verse, but depending which version of the Bible you're reading, it's going to have very different renderings. Everything from vanity of vanities, all is vanity. As smoke, nothing but smoke. Useless, useless, all things are useless. Perfectly pointless, everything is pointless. Or meaningless, everything is meaningless. It's said that the true meaning of hevel is actually more along the lines of vapor, mist, breath, or smoke in its original Hebrew meaning. So if you've read Ecclesiastes, maybe you might want to think about what these interpretations, or like how these interpretations can more closely connect with yours. Many people may realize after reading it that the teacher's not saying nothing matters. This isn't an emo song. He's saying enjoy your meals, enjoy your work, love your spouse, fear God, receive life as a gift. A nihilist, or someone who truly believes life has no meaning, doesn't say those things. What he does say is you can't control life, you can't preserve life, and you can't make temporary things permanent. So that's a lot closer to vapor than meaningless. In fact, one of the most memorable ways I've heard the three Israeli wisdom lit pieces from a couple slides ago summarized is as follows. Proverbs teaches that life is generally predictable. Job teaches that life is often unfair. And Ecclesiastes teaches that life is uncontrollable. So that uncontrollable, fleeting, vapor-like idea is what hevel is getting at. So now I'm going to dive into 3 core lessons from my life thus far and connect those into some core biblical learnings. Number 1, achievement isn't enough. So whether it was chasing that dream job, a promotion, a raise, winning some type of award, there's always going to be the next thing. Little by little, I've realized that the satiation of achieving those things only lasts as long in the philosophical sense that a good meal does in the literal sense. At some point, no matter how much you eat, you're still going to be hungry again. And that leads me to lesson 2. Experiences aren't enough either. I'm from Delaware, one of the smallest states in the country, and in my little Delawarean mind, I thought that seeing more of the world would fix this. I thought that, okay, once I visit another country, if I check off another continent, if I do some type of high adrenaline activity like skydiving, the feeling is still always fleeting. And lesson number 3 is that we control less than we think. One thing that Ecclesiastes forced me to confront is how little control I actually have. I couldn't fully control whether a relationship worked, especially when the guy I thought I was going to marry came into the relationship harboring trauma from an abusive childhood of which I had no part. I couldn't control that another man got drunk, got in his car, blew through a red light, and collided directly with my car, and then drove away. I couldn't control a family member falling into alcohol addiction or another family member sinking into a depression that would later emerge as something even scarier. I'll confess, yesterday I actually just went to my first ever Al-Anon meeting because I'm really having difficulty navigating a family member who, for the past 6 years, just hasn't been able to shake their drinking. And it's been really hard. And it's been nice to hear how your faith journey, some of you have opened up in your testimonials, how that has helped you, and I'm trying to help that person see the same, or at least just find something that can make them not drive to drinking. But I digress. So Ecclesiastes calls all these things time and chance, not because God is absent, but because life is more mysterious than we would like. Ecclesiastes 7:14, I thought this one was pretty cool, but when times are good, be happy, but when times are bad, consider this: God made the one as well as the other. Ecclesiastes 9:11, the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, nor bread to the wise, nor riches to the intelligent, nor favor to those with knowledge, but time and chance happen to them all. And finally, Ecclesiastes 11:5, as you do not know the path of the wind, so you cannot understand the work of God. So in my 20s, I thought faith meant having a plan. In my 30s, I started learning that faith often means trusting God when the plan falls apart. And Ian, I'm not going to lie, when you invited me to 20s group, the fact that you thought I could be in my 20s was like motivation enough to come. So thank you. All right, so I'm going to take a moment to interrupt this programming with life lessons from a relevant pop culture reference. And no, that is not my picture. I'm not that old. Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon, I don't know if anyone else is watching that. I have been. I realized that on paper, just visually, everything, it's really not that holy of a show for sure. But I was encouraged by my mentors in preparing this that maybe I should see how the Bible defines success, and maybe I should check out Kings. And Kings, to me, was the written version of Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon. Power is seductive in this show. Everyone's chasing legacy, wealth, control, territory, status, revenge, dynasty, the right to rule. Very similar to what you see in Kings, which precedes Ecclesiastes. Kings is full of royal families, succession drama, political alliances, betrayal, war, national identity, and the constant question of whether a king is actually good. For example, Solomon, the same one that's the preacher, Ecclesiastes, he had almost every worldly marker of success. He succeeded his father David on the throne, and then actually the first thing he did was kill his brother. And then after that, 1 Kings 3, he tries to get off on the right foot with God by asking him for wisdom instead of riches or a longer life. And that's really a beautiful picture of godly success because it's humility, it's dependence, it's discernment. He built this vast kingdom and was admired around the world for his wisdom. But 1 Kings 10-11, Solomon's life became filled with accumulation, gold, horses, foreign alliances, 700 wives and 300 concubines. Like, I don't even know. That's like 1,000 women. That's crazy. So his heart turned away from God, and God's like, okay, deal's over, buddy. So in 1 Kings 11 to 14, the Lord said to Solomon, since this is your attitude, and you have not kept my covenant and my decrees, which I commanded you, I will most certainly tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your subordinates. Nevertheless, for the sake of David your father, I will not do it during your lifetime. I will tear it out of the hand of your son. Yet I will not tear the whole kingdom from him, but will give him one tribe for the sake of David my servant, and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen. Then the Lord raised up against Solomon an adversary. Solomon had success, but success did not have the power to save his heart. So worldly success would be, look what I built, and godly success is more like, was my heart faithful? And yes, that is my picture, but the dragon's not real. The Bible evaluates kings differently than the world does. In Game of Thrones, a successful ruler might be someone who survives, wins a lot of battles, makes alliances, crushes enemies, secures the throne. In Kings, a successful king is not measured mainly by how powerful he is, but whether he does what's right in the eyes of the Lord. So it leaves you longing for a different kind of king, and at the end it leaves you asking, is there ever going to be a truly faithful king? And one could say this leads us to Jesus, who redefines kingship entirely. Rather than being a worldly king obsessed with wealth, domination, or image, he comes as a servant king. His success looks like obedience to God, self-giving love, humility, sacrifice, and resurrection. Knowing what we know now about King Solomon, considering his hard-earned lessons, how he became the teacher, Koheleth, Ecclesiastes, it might be a little clearer to us all now. So with that in mind, let's return to our original program and see what it got right. The world is constantly pressuring us to do more, faster, bigger, better than ever before. We're in a constant state of adaptation, evolution, transition. We're always holding our breaths for the next shoe to drop. Ecclesiastes tells us that life is delicate and uncertain, everything is temporary, and that our blessings, good times, and those who bring us joy are gifts. After all of this, achievement isn't enough, experiences aren't enough, control is an illusion. It would be easy to think that Ecclesiastes is just telling us to detach, care less, want less, enjoy less, but that's not what it does. It says that because life is fleeting, we should receive it as a gift. So if you want to flip over to Ecclesiastes 9, 7 to 10, I also have it on the slide. This is one of the parts of Ecclesiastes that changes the whole tone of the book. After saying that life is vapor, temporary, impossible to control, the teacher doesn't say, so stop enjoying everything. He instead says, smile, eat your food, enjoy a glass of wine, put on your cutest fit, spritz your favorite perfume, enjoy life with the person you love. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. So in other words, don't worship life's gifts, but you don't have to refuse them either. The world says to chase these things and they'll fulfill you. Religious guilt sometimes may caution you to be suspicious of pleasure, ambition, beauty, success, or desire. Ecclesiastes says something wiser. These things are gifts. Receive them, enjoy them, but don't build your identity on them. The problem was never that I wanted too much joy. The problem was that I kept expecting temporary things to give me eternal satisfaction. Thank you. No, I'd love to be like, oh, I'm done, but I'm not. I'm almost done, though, I promise. For those of you that have been in small groups with me, this is the brother I'm always praying for. This is my favorite picture with him. I chose to quote the children's version of the Bible for this because it used the simplest words, especially in verse 10, which for me drove in this core message that I think is very relevant for a 20s/30s group. Ecclesiastes 11:9-10, young people, enjoy yourselves while you are young. Be happy while you are young. Do whatever your heart desires. But remember that God will judge you. Do whatever you want to do. But remember that God will judge you for everything you do. So avoid sorrow and sadness. Forget about all the bad things that happen to you. This is because the joys of youth pass quickly away. Ecclesiastes 12:1 also says, remember your Creator while you are young, your old age is coming. So, what actually satisfies. Ecclesiastes doesn't give us a formula, it gives us a reordering. A Jewish friend recently shared with me the phrase tikkun olam, often understood as repairing the world. I love that because after standing in places like Dachau and Chungek, it feels impossible to say, well, life is hevel, life is meaningless, so nothing matters. Ecclesiastes doesn't call us to apathy, it calls us to humility. So we can't change the world, we can't change every injustice, we can't make life permanent, but we can receive our life as a gift from God and then offer it back in faithful repair. I can do the work in front of me. I can love the people who are put on my path. I can pursue justice where I have influence. I can enjoy beauty without ignoring suffering. And I can start living faithfully before God. And that, to me, is what Ecclesiastes got right. This would actually feel like the ending, but I swear this is actually the last slide, literally. So you probably thought I was done because that felt like a conclusion, and it was. But then I wanted to tack this on, so I put a cute picture of my dog being terrified by a foster kitten. So I'm going to close with Galatians 6:4-5. And this isn't so much Ecclesiastes related, but just kind of a message I wanted to share with you personally. All of this is personal. Anyway, so each one should test their own actions. They can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to someone else. So like I mentioned before, this is my second time speaking at 20s group. I was raised Catholic. I was baptized while I was still in diapers so that I would not die with my original sin, as is believed in Catholicism. And then I went to Catholic school. I went to church every Sunday till I was 18. And then I've casually flirted with going to Catholic and non-denominational churches throughout adulthood with the same consistency as a lot of men on dating apps. I have a, maybe not Christian mingle, I don't know, I haven't been on that one. I have a general sense of the overall Bible, but there are books in there that I still have never even heard of, and I probably still couldn't quote a whole verse offhand. For what it's worth, I landed here at 20 group, as Ian said, through line dancing at Saddlebags. So I didn't come here like through a church or something like that. So all that said, I just wanted to say, I know firsthand how intimidating it is to come in here and listen to others who have been lifelong devout Christians, people who've done a lot of mission trips, people that can quote the Bible with their eyes closed, people that maybe have pursued a more traditional path, abstaining from alcohol or like premarital relations, things like that. And I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying that I can understand how it can be easy to compare yourself and then question if you're worthy of having your voice heard up here. So I just wanted to say that as we see in that Galatians verse, we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to anybody. Furthermore, I want you all to realize your voices are worthy of being heard no matter where you are in your journey. And not only does standing up here presenting help you develop public speaking skills, something that will benefit probably all of you in whatever careers you are in or are pursuing, but it also gives you a tangible motivation to study the Bible more. The two topics I presented on thus far were conceptually relevant to me, so when I found books in the Bible that could help me understand the meaning or purpose in my life experiences better, I read those books with a fervor that I wasn't able to come up with when I was just sitting there at night like, I should do better, I should read the Bible. So if you're struggling with the concept of reading the Bible every day, which I feel like I do hear often in a lot of small groups, people saying that they feel this guilt for not doing it, maybe consider speaking up here, because when you have something tangible that makes you want to read or discover a certain book or discover certain passages, it turns into like this voluntary research project of self-discovery more so than just this like, oh, I'm going to be a bad Christian if I don't do this. Thank you. And finally, doing this has helped me build mentor-like relationships with really awesome people here. Kaylin, Madison, for example, major shout outs. Ian also, who's let me pick his brain on a lot of thoughts. Johnny also. Bones, I don't know, we had like this random spontaneous evening one night where we just talked theology, and it was pretty cool. So anyway, it helps connect you with these people that might be further along in their spiritual journey, or maybe they can just give you a different perspective than your own, because we all have different life experiences. So with that, thank you for your time. Yeah.